What's up, big guy? Well, I think our first video, the message of Tears of the Kingdom, was misunderstood. Or at least, people seem to ignore the main point. What do you mean? We should give a spoiler warning first. Spoilers for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom coming up. Go on? Thanks. We said the message was, we don't have the means to overcome climate change now, but we will someday. If the leaders make sacrifices now, they can delay it and provide a chance for future generations to deal with it. Yeah? Judging from the comments, people were focused on the climate change and not the passing of the buck, as we put it. Maybe everyone agreed with the passing of the buck part, didn't think it was worth debating, I suppose. But could we talk a little more about it today? Make ourselves clear? I got you, mate. For those who haven't seen the first video, there's a link below. Sorry about the audio quality. You should understand the points of this video without needing to see the other one. Though I'll assume you know the story and characters. Seriously, if you don't know the story, why are you watching this? Go and play it. There's a new version on the Switch too. Come back when you're done. First, on the climate change thing, whilst I maintain it was the main issue, other environmental problems like pollution are exhibited. So, in my opinion, Tears of the Kingdom is clearly eco-fiction. Just look at the title. The land is crying. But in this video, I'm going to focus on the second part of the message, the idea of leaders passing the buck. Regardless of the issues being dealt with, the point remains they exist in present-day Hyrule due to the old leadership failing to deal with them in the past. Rauru and co. did too little too late and merely postponed the peril, passing responsibility for it onto the younger generation, namely Link. A moment ago, I interpreted the title as a reference to environmental problems. However, another interpretation of a kingdom is not as a land, but a monarchy, a system of rulers and succession, and it laments. Ideas of leadership, duty, and succession abound in Tears. After Zelda informs Rauru of his inability to defeat Ganondorf, he says, "Maybe so, but it is my duty to try. It was my hubris that set us on this path. I must atone for my error in judgment, and above all else, I remain king of Hyrule. As with any leader, it is my duty to safeguard and protect my people, even if I must risk my life." Or to paraphrase, I should have seen this coming and dealt with it sooner. Now I must take responsibility for it. Another example of strong leadership is Riju, leader of the Gerudo. She isn't so prone to speeches. She's less politician, more warrior. You first see her training, honing her abilities to be able to protect her people. From then on, she's all business, taking charge of fights against the Gyptos. Like Rauru, she takes her duty to safeguard and protect her people seriously. She just handles it her own way. Next, we have an example of bad leadership. Yunobo, as president of Yunobo Co., lets the power go to his head. He mines a drug-like meat for his own profit, to the detriment of his people, which he later regrets. Lady Paya becomes Kakariko village chief after the uprising, succeeding her grandmother. She isn't ready for her role and neglects her duties, spending most of her time thinking about the rings. Once that problem is solved, she realizes the error of her ways and starts working for the good of the people. I see a pattern here. Another example of leadership comes from the election in Hateno village. Cece and Reed are vying for power. Cece is the new blood, young and trendy, all about progress and fashion. Reed is the old blood, stubborn and conservative, all about keeping to the traditional ways of farming. They both selfishly promote their own agenda despite seeing the good the other can bring. But thanks to Cece's sister's outburst, they put aside their egos for the sake of the village, joining together, combining old and new, tradition and progress. We alluded to inherited responsibility in the last video. Link and several others in the story, like Paya, inherit responsibility and cope with it in different ways. This is standard storytelling technique. Choose a thematic question, then create characters with contrasting values that allow you to explore different ideas and approaches to answering it. What's the thematic question then? I think it's something like, how should leaders deal with the burdens left by previous generations? Let's start with the sages. After defeating the boss in each temple, an ancestral sage appears. Each ancestor made a vow to Zelda to help Link when Ganondorf breaks free of his seal, and they tell their descendants to fulfill it. They have different reasons. It's a duty, a mission, or destiny, but essentially, they're passing on responsibility. The inheritors of this responsibility react in different ways. Chulin is happy, excited to prove himself. Yunobo is worried, lacking confidence. Sidon, the humble warrior, just wanted to save his home, but accepts his fate with pride and determination. And Riju, the diligent, feisty chief, relishes the chance to take down the Demon King. All 4 of them, regardless of personality or background, understand the importance of this obligation and accept it. So they're the descendants of the original sages. Technically, they are heirs, but this argument is weak. Well, next, let's talk about the wording used in these sentences, and you'll see the generation gap and ideas of inheritance are rife. The wording don't emphasize inheritance that much. I'll admit, in English it's subtle, but the original Japanese is not subtle at all. In English, all of our descendants are greeted in different ways, adding some individualism to the characters. Sidon, my cherished kin. Riju, beloved daughter of the Gerudo. Yonobo, little rock. And Julin, my brave fledgling. The dialogue for each of the ancestors in Japanese is almost exactly the same as the others. You probably won't understand, but listen and you'll hear they say the same thing. They all say, Shison yo, waga chi o tsugu mono, name yo. By the way, their Japanese names are different. We have Churi, Ruju, Yun, and Shiro. Kawaii ne, Churi. I don't like him. Anyway, taking Churi as an example, the literal translation is, Descendant Churi, the one who inherits my blood. But the emphasis on the generation gap doesn't stop there. Whenever the ancestors refer to the descendants, they either just call them descendant or they prefix their names with descendant, even prior to meeting them, when they call out with their disembodied voices on the way to the temples. What about inheritance? Well, the final lines of the ancestors are the same too. In English, we have some variation of, You must take up my secret stone and honor the vow I made to the Sage of Time. The phrasal verb take up is used. It can mean to start something new or to continue something previously started. But the Japanese says, Douka kono hiseki o keishou shi, waga toki no kenja to kawashita yakusoku. Translated as, Please inherit this secret stone and fulfill the promise I made to the Sage of Time. Here inherit, which has the nuance of receiving something or transference, is used. This distinct difference is important as it stresses these issues aren't new and are being passed on. There is a little consistency between languages from the descendants. In English, when receiving the secret stone, Yonobo does use the word inherit, but the others don't. Riju says she'll claim her destiny. Sidon will accept the stone, and Chulin just says he'll take it, with no acknowledgement of its history whatsoever. See, he's an entitled brat. However, in Japanese, they all use the word inherit. Additionally, in the Ask the Developer interviews on Tears of the Kingdom, Eiji Aonuma, longtime producer of the Zelda series, states that the hands theme expresses the idea of connecting. You what, mate? Hands theme? What are you talking about? Aonuma don't know what a theme is. This is another thing lost in translation. In the interview, Aonuma doesn't say hands, he says TotK, which is more accurately translated as hand to hand, and in Japanese has strong connotations of joining together and cooperation, like Sisi with Reed, Link with the sages, and the sages with their ancestors. Other examples of joining together include reuniting the fairy troupe and the new Korok seed puzzles, which take bringing people together quite literally. Anyway, back to the interview. In talking about how the story implements this concept of TotK, Aonuma cites Hyrule's past as an example. So the producer, when talking about the theme of the game, specifically mentions ideas of connecting to the past. And just to drive the point home about inherited responsibility, after Sidon's ancestor scene, he inherits the Zora throne. What greater responsibility is there than a crown? Chulin inherits his father's bow, symbolizing his new duty, and Riju inherits the Gerudo Nation's responsibility for Ganondorf's very existence. Demon King Ganondorf is the physical representation of environmental problems, right? Right, he's even depicted as a kind of storm in these murals. Side note, regular King Ganondorf is another example of leadership. Bad leadership, of course. He breaks his vow to Rauru, selfishly ignoring his responsibilities as leader and subsequently abandons his people. The antithesis of the righteous actions of the sages. Now let's talk about Link. He doesn't have an ancestral bond like the sages, but he is given a hand, literally, by Rauru. A TotK connection with Rauru's hopes and wishes that Link use it to do what he couldn't. Link, through courage and determination, goes on a journey of self-growth, giving himself the tools he needs to solve the world's problems with the help of the sages. And when they succeed, Mineru says to the heroes, "You have overcome the burden my era left to you." You ain't talked about Zelda yet. How can you come up with a theory of the game's message without even talking about the title character? I'm glad you asked. Zelda has a vital role in all of this. Zelda's work in the past is representative of the idea of joining together with your ancestors across generations for a common goal. But she's also the main proponent of something I haven't discussed yet, the idea of learning from the past to create a brighter future. There are several characters throughout the game researching the past or learning from it in some way. We have Pura, who has spent her life researching ancient technology, Impa, who goes out to research the geoglyphs, and Toro, who's in charge of the Zonai survey team. This team has members scattered throughout Hyrule, researching everything and anything about the ancient race of Zonai. There's also this researcher in Kakariko Village, another in Gerudo Town, and some more I'm sure I've missed. In Tarry Town, Hudson and his employees study and innovate with the ancient Zonai devices, as do the Yiga. Side note too, Master Koga is another example of bad leadership. The leader who stubbornly supports what is clearly bad for the world is just an idiot. Then there's Reed in Hateno, looking for that gooey mouthfeel his grandfather gave him. We find a recipe left in a bottle from a farm girl's grandfather. They learn the recipe for cheese, a revolutionary new food that can revitalize Hateno's agricultural business. Also in Hateno, in the school, when you can finally convince them the calamity of Breath of the Wild isn't fake news, the students listen to the teacher's story and make some pretty sharp insights. All that we have, our land, our lives, our civilization, we owe it all to those who fought for it through the centuries.
Wow, I want to be like the ancient hero and give the next generation good lives too.
This scene is a wonderful summation of everything the little one here has been saying. And of course, there's Zelda, who learns to control her new powers, learns about the history of Hyrule, and uses that knowledge to save the future. How does this all come together? What's the message of Tears of the Kingdom? Before I answer that, I just want to ask anyone who's sat through all this to please leave a comment. Do you agree? If not, why? If so, can you think of any other characters or examples that support this theory? Or perhaps you just want to say,
The message, mate?
Tears of the Kingdom is a call to action against environmental issues, against our own hubris. We must learn from our past mistakes and take responsibility now to forge a brighter future. With cheese! Leaders must be selfless for the good of the people to hold disaster at bay, because the next generation will inherit these problems. It is by working together across time, tete-a-tete, that we'll find solutions to these crises. And until that happens, we must make sacrifices, do our best, everyone, young and old, now and in the future, to prevent things from getting worse. Thank you for watching. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.